I gave birth to a child.
On Halloween.
Spooky.
Mm-hmm.
Witches and magic.
Do we have? Fine. I'm here with Lishy, Weenus, also known as Precious Boo Boo, and today we're talking Halloween with friends who love to give each other the business. Lishy, what witches and magic things do you have for this beautiful Halloween episode?
Well, the reason I thought of it is I'm listening to a political book called The People's History of the Supreme Court. And this guy is like really detailed. And he goes back to Puritan times, Pilgrim times. And he was talking about like the witch trials and stuff. And a lot of it had less to do with witches and more to do with like these women wanted like some type of equality. And so they used the religious cudgel to keep their political power. This woman's a witch, when in reality they were trying to look for more equal rights and stuff. So that's what made me think of witches and stuff. And
wait, he's saying that the people who accuse people of being witches were doing it to assert some kind of power in the society that they were in, or is that
absolutely political power? Yeah,
I don't even know.
That's why
I
I
don't
typically
think that's
do
the
it.
case.
Oh, Snippins, what do you believe it is?
Well, I believe that most of the evidence and testimony in the Salem witch trials was based on what people said that spirits told them. I think it was just people being catty and shitty to each other.
Well, cattiness certainly does play a part. I mean, look at what's going on even today with the cancel culture, right?
I have a feeling that people got accused of being witches because of petty grievances.
Like casting spells and curses.
But
No,
but
not at all.
but I think it's a combination probably too of what Lishy is saying and what you're saying. I think when we put both those things together, you do have a reason to be the whistleblower, because one, that means you're not the witch, right? So you're clear. And two, then all of a sudden people start listening to you, and when you don't have a voice, that feels good.
I just think it's weird to accuse someone of being a witch and then saying that a spirit told you so.
It is there is a conflict of interest. My magic friend told me you're a witch.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of projection, I think.
So why are they called witches? Isn't it like Wicca or something, or Wicker? What's the olden timey religion?
Witch comes from Old English, Wicca. But I mean, that's why Wikipedia is so dangerous. But
shut the fuck up. You're not going to slip that one in, you son of a bitch.
Oh my God. Tony is trying out to be a dad with the puns.
Just give me a little spritz. So I would say also Druids, the whole idea of Druids, and they use whatever Hollywood, which is why Hollywood is called Hollywood, because it's the magic factory.
I always associate Halloween with going to gay bars and having a fabulous time. And my son was born on Halloween. So.
Oh, my kid's October 30th.
Oh, wow. Little Scorpio.
What was your first costume? Do you remember your first costume when you went trick or treating? What was your first costume, Boo Boo?
I was a Ghostbuster. I had a little brown ski suit and my little proton pack.
So Snippins, what was your first Halloween costume?
I have no idea.
Oh, Bonies, I don't know.
I don't know. Make something up.
It was a really long time ago.
Do you remember any of your Halloween?
Really long.
One time, it was like two inflatable heads that sat on either side of your head.
Mm-hmm. I wore three-headed Snippins?
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I was obese and I hated Halloween except for the candy because I couldn't just buy an off-the-shelf Halloween costume for me because either I'd eat it or I wouldn't fit in it. So I've always hated clothes shopping and costumes. One of the guys in my club was he's a special effects guy. He's like, dude, you want to be a Blue Man Group? He had a cap left and he did me up as a Blue Man Group.
Oh, that's cool.
It's blue makeup, but the way they make it look all weird is they don't put powder on it. Usually they powder you to make it so you don't shine.
Yeah.
And they have a skull cap, but it covers the ears. So that's what makes them look all weird.
Oh.
It's just really simple, but everything's blue and there's no powder. So you're all shiny. And then you wear a black hoodie and black sweatpants. It was fun. Then the next year he did me up as Dilo de los Muertes.
Yeah, the Day of the Dead paints that they do are really intricate and cool looking. They go all out over there. In LA, when people dress up, and you would think LA, because they work in special effects and stuff, you think they would be, going overboard. But it's not a Christmassy town, and it's not a Halloween town. LA.
It's a glamour town, baby.
And also back east places, like when you go to a Renaissance fair back east, like it's in trees, and like if they do it in the fall, the trees are all cool and changing. But in LA, it like just looks like a desert, and people are
fucking Orange County.
Yeah, it's not. And
they only serve right wings off of turkeys.
And you would think that because it's such a Hollywoody place, LA, that their the Renaissance fairs would be cool, but they're not. They're terrible.
I often associate the Renaissance fair with Halloween.
Absolutely.
You do or don't?
I do.
It is. Well, because you also get the one guy who comes as a samurai for some reason. Occasionally, you'll have a stormtrooper there. People do seem
that would be excellent.
People seem to not know what a Renaissance fair means, but
do people ever show up as like Da Vinci?
No, but some people do have the puffy, and the tights and the, and the little
like the Renaissance age.
All of the girls with big tits whip their corsets out and go to town. That's what the Ren Fest is.
There's a lot of push-up raw action.
I was thinking about going to the Ren Fest this year, but I have absolutely no reason why I would.
Just turkey leg.
I would go if there was a samurai guy and a stormtrooper.
There's always one samurai guy. There isn't always a stormtrooper, but every Renaissance fair I've been to, there's been one samurai dude who wears.
Have you seen
on his back though? On his back.
Have you seen that there's been like an uprising in people doing like martial combat, like in full plate armor and fighting each other with axes and like as
it's
hobby?
It's because of the UFC. I used to be when I was in Pasadena, when I went to PCC, I was taking medieval history, and there was a guy there who was in the thing called the SCA, which they put like armor on and they hit each other with swords, which are made of rattan. But so my Joseph and I, we went to the SCA, and we couldn't afford anything because we were college students. So we went to a carpeteria, and I jumped into the garbage bin, and I was pulling out carpet because we can make armor out of carpet, they told us. So I was handing Joe the carpet, and then I see a flashlight, and I was like, oh no, because I knew it was a cop, like right away, and it was a cop. And then I looked over Joe, and it was a cop, of course. And he's like, what are you guys doing? And then Joe turned to him and started walking towards him with a knife in his hand because he was cutting.
Fucking Joe is clueless.
He was cutting the carpet with a knife. And then the cop was like, all right, why don't you just stop walking forward? And then Joe's like, it's okay, officer, I'm an Eagle Scout, while he's still walking towards the cop. And then I see his flashlight hit Joe's face and then go down to his hand and to the knife. And then Joe held the knife sideways in his hand while still walking towards the cop. And the cop's like, all right, Eagle Scout, why don't you just hold it right there? And he's like, what are you guys doing? And we're like, we're
stealing carpet
to make armor for the. And he was like, all right, I don't want to hear anymore. Just take your carpet and go. And it was actually very nice. He let us go. But we took the carpet from the garbage, and then we made carpet armor. And then they have these things called wars, and then it was all the way down right by Mexico. So it took us like 3 hours to drive there, and we were working that night. So we got there at like 5 a.m. So we drove all night and we didn't sleep. And we got out, and we had our wall shields, which were really big, made out of wood, and we were so exhausted. And when we got there, they're like, you can't just go fight, you have to actually do a test. And we're like, what? No one told us that. And so they have a guy in full armor with an actual wooden sword come up and start swinging it at you and trying to kill you, and you have to somehow defend yourself. And for some reason they passed both of us, and then so we went and we fought in the war. And then it was like 20 of us because the Pasadena guys were not very wealthy, but on the other side it was guys from back east, and they all had full armor, like metal armor, and it was like 300 of them in a line. And
how about you?
Yeah, so you battle the bastards.
Yeah, I was like, this is how you must feel going against England when you're like some crappy village. And then so they destroyed us, of course. And then so Joe and I died. And then because we died, we had to do a defense thing where they had these like big barrels of hay, and you had to like pretend like you're defending a doorway. So we had wall shields, and all the spearmen were like hitting our shields. And then Joe was standing right next to me, shoulder to shoulder, right? So I look at Joe, and he looks at me, and then I hear a terrible sound. And
Joe shit his pants.
And then I looked, and Joe wasn't there anymore. Like I heard a terrible sound.
Can you mimic the sound?
It was like if you go into your kitchen and take your pots and pans, and then you put a piece of meat on one of them, and then just drop it on the floor as hard as you can. That's the sound. It was like meat and metal. Like I can't fully explain to you what it sounded like. But Joe was just gone. He wasn't there anymore. And then so I waited, and so I held my shield up, and then someone hit me in my legs with because there's the spears are just really long pieces of wood, but they have these round cylinders at the front of it where this is the spearhead. So if it hits you, that means you got hit by a spear. But of course it hurts like the dickens anyway because it's wood, and the guy's like hurling it at you at full strength. So I got hit in the leg, and I was like, oh, I guess I'm dead. So I walked around with my shield. I'm looking for Joe. I can't find him. And then I see him laying on a big piece of hay, and there's just blood coming down his face because my Joe has a beaky nose, and the helmet they gave him was one of those pot helmets. And so when it hit the front of the pot helmet, it hit him right in the nose, and his nose was bleeding. And I looked down, and I was like, Joe. And he looked up at me with blood coming down his face, and he said, Bunnies, they got me. And then
So I had no idea you and Joe were LARPers.
Well, it's worse than LARPing because it's actual full contact. They swing. It's full contact. It's called the SCA. It's full contact, and you're supposed to have armor. But again, we were broke.
At the MGM, remember they had the theme park behind the MGM? And then they eventually just stopped opening the theme park, except on Halloween. They would call it the Scream Park. And it would just be filled with like shitty haunted houses. And I remember senior year, a high school friend was behind me, and I had a hoodie on, and he had gripped onto the hood of my hoodie. And every time we'd get scared, I would get choked because he'd yank and scream. So the whole time I'm just like, I thought I was going to die in this haunted house as my friend was choking me to death with the collar.
Can they touch you in haunted houses?
I think they can, as long as it's like not inappropriate.
Yeah, at some haunted houses they have chainsaws without the chain.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just the motor, and they come after you.
Oh,
There you go. That's pretty
They don't
scary.
touch you, do they?
They grab you. I remember like being touched and grabbed by them, like on the shoulder. Yeah, and like one of our friends ran ahead, and there was an area with like cargo netting and leaves and shit, and he had backed up in a corner to jump out and scare us. As we ran to the corner, he did that, not realizing that one of the haunted house actors was blending into the wall right behind him, who then leaned forward and wrapped his arms around our friend, who screamed like at the top of his lungs because he was not. That is what he gets. But we all ran and left him there.
What if you're just really lonely and you want to be touched? You just
You go to the haunted house and walk real slow. Oh, I hope nobody gets me.
just need someone to touch me.
They hug you and you say, I love you too.
No, the employee at the haunted house gets scared.
Yeah. He's like, whoa.
My son worked at one, and he said that you're not allowed to touch them, but I don't think he didn't make it sound like they go out of their way to touch you, but you're definitely not allowed to touch them.
Yes.
Well, you know what? I'm a lot older than you, who's a lot older than him, who's a lot older than I'm sure like at new haunted house places, you have to like you can only scare very politically correct. Boo.
Yeah.
There's a strip club here that used to do a haunted house, Little Darlings. I don't know if they still do it, but they did.
Oh
Or
my
does
God.
everybody have like doctors saying that they have chlamydia or something like that? And
There was some like spooky thing, like there was like an abortion scene in one of the rooms and stuff, but it was literally just like it was just topless women trying to scare you is the gist of it.
You know, I'm not normally against abortion, but I am against abortion as entertainment.
as played for laugh or spooks and
Yeah,
gaffs.
I'm not. Yeah, I don't want a ticket to one.
Yeah, that's like every art exhibit at my art school at UC Irvine was abortion.
Wait, I thought you had one where the girl shit in a jar.
Yeah, that was the TA. In one of them, it was a thing that you were supposed to do was called collecting, and I collected parking tickets because they kept giving me parking tickets even though I was a student and had my student pass. They kept giving me tickets, so I got mad, and then I just kept parking there, and it kept giving me tickets. So for my collecting, I collected parking tickets, and I did get a good grade because I was going against the man. You know, everyone loves that. And then my TA's collecting was jars of her own poop, and they put her stupid exhibit in the student museum. I was furious. Like I went
Is
into
it still there?
I went into debt for $450, and this lady just pooed in jars, and then she got into the student museum. Yeah,
What was her diet like?
it was a lot of peanuts.
I imagine people who went to the museum were furious too.
Did she pickle it?
No, she didn't pickle the poop, boo boo. Jesus.
That'd be fantastic. That would be an art piece.
That is a deli I don't want to go to.
Crinkle cut.
Bread and butter shits.
I mean, they're making everything into peanut butter now, right? They have almond. They have so they could have human poop.
It's nut butter.
Yeah, as a spread.
Ass
Butt
butter. Yeah, there you go. Butt butter. That's better.
Pickled human poops. As
Just
a
butt
spread.
or
Well, at the bottom, they could put all natural, and they wouldn't get sued. Is the thing, because it is all natural. So I have tallied our votes, and feel free to write in the comments section who you think is never right in this episode.
she was right. It was a better art piece. Sorry, Bonies.
Her poo wins. That's what you guys are saying.
Well,
We're
no,
saying
you're never
you
right.
win never right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you win never right because of the poop experience.
Yeah.
So you're saying that the poop thing deserves to be in the student museum. That's what you guys are saying.
Yes.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you want more content from the Never Right podcast.